The next person who signed up is Olga Pogostushina.
If the committee doesn't mind, we have 2 people signed up from the Roanoke Rio Basin Association, so I'm just giving my thought to the executive director for the association.
Is he also signed up?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Andrew Lester. I'm the Executive Director of the Roanoke Basin Association, which is a nonprofit group of folks, individuals, localities, governmental agencies, wherever from, in both Virginia and North Carolina. We've been in existence since 1945, and we cover the area from Blue Ridge all the way to Albemarle Sound. All the rivers and lakes involved in this river system we cover. We try to be the stewards of this whole system. It includes Lake Gaston and Carr Lake, Philpott Lake, Pico Lake, and many others. As I said, the reason it was formed was because of flooding. The fact of the matter is there was no dams on the system at the time, in the 1940s. And there was a lot of flooding, even then. A lot of loss of life, and buildings, farms, farm animals, whatever. So we got together, the folks who formed it got together and went to Washington and convinced the federal government to build Carr Lake Dam. That was the first dam many built in that system, as you know now. And obviously the reason was because of flooding. Now we hear this situation coming along, and we're concerned for a number of reasons. A number of things are concerning to us. First of all the river system and all the water comes, as you know, right through Lake Gaston, right downstream into North Carolina. 93% of the water that comes into Lake Gaston comes from Carr Lake, and all of that comes from Virginia, primarily. Some from North Carolina, but it curves around and comes back into North Carolina at Clarksville. Now, not only are there localities in Virginia who are drawing water, including Virginia Beach, and the U.S. military in Hampton Roads, but you've got Henderson, North Carolina, who's requesting 24 million gallons of water a day. You've got Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina, who are drawing water from their system. And now Raleigh, North Carolina, needs 50 million gallons of water a day. They requested this from the Army Corps of Engineers. It's on hold at this time. So you can see, you're talking about possibly 2.5 million people to be impacted if something occurs. So my question to you is, what's the fail-safe situation here? You know, how much danger do we have? You know, if you're going to present something to the state of Virginia, how much contingent to and how much subject to are you going to put into the report? And if you do, what's it going to be based on? How are you going to determine this? These are things we're very concerned about, both in Virginia and North Carolina. And I can tell you, at this point, the people in North Carolina, particularly downstream, are getting very, very concerned and energized. I see this whole process going, in the event that uranium mining moratorium is lifted, I see this as being another situation similar to what the fight we had when Virginia Beach first came to Lake Gaston to get water. I can see it go in that direction because people on very high levels are getting very concerned. So I'm asking you, think about the fact that 0.5% probably want this situation, the other 99.5% of the population do not. So you've got to think out in those directions. And what is the fail-safe level? Thank you very much.
Next person to speak is Eloise Nina.
Move down a bit. I'm Eloise Needon, and I live in Chatham. And there's something about the history of the hydrology of the area that I think needs to be looked at. My house in the center of Chatham is at an elevation of 1,000 feet. There's a well in my side yard. It's been there for 150 years, I guess. and the water level there is down 10 feet. Now, I had it concreted over to keep kids from falling in it, for God's sake. But I learned something new about the history of the hydrology of the area. I heard about the barite mine back in the 30s that wasn't too far north of Chatham, and went out there finally found it exactly where it was. And what did we find? Mining barite to use in paint, which is still done today, still used today, mined out west, that when they were mining, they had a pit 80 feet deep that they had been digging barite out of. And it turns out that at an elevation of 80 feet, or not an elevation, excuse me, a depth of 80 feet, they hit a water table, massive water table, and the water came gushing out. And the miners who were down there ran for their lives, swimming out, some of them. And the equipment that was there, and in the 30s there wouldn't have been as much as there would have been today, is still there. They were never able to get it out. And it filled up this pit. I'm told that when, and I've heard that, kept hearing this, that when we have a dry spell, you can see part of a lift sticking out of the water. But when it's been as rainy as we've been having, it's all covered up as such. And then I was to find out there were 3 more barite mines, but after this tremendous accident, all of them were closed down because of the strength of the water gushing out, and some miners died in that also. What's interesting is, this isn't more than 8 or 10 miles from Coles Hill. It's not very far away. And let's look at the history of other things that have happened in that area also. This isn't that simple a thing. The hydrology needs to be carefully looked at. Please help us keep the band, protect us. Thank you very, very much.
The next speaker is Jack Donovan.
Mr. Chairman and members of the panel, I am Jack Donovan, a professional civil engineer. I'm on town council of Halifax, Virginia, and I am here representing Southside Concerned Citizens as its chairman. I have information here from our seminar in Richmond. It was sponsored by Earth Day, and I also have a pamphlet here from Dr. Gordon Edwards titled Uranium, the Deadliest Metal. Dr. Edwards is probably the world's foremost expert on uranium mining. I hope that you will take this and read it and heed his advice and wisdom. Let me say this: dams are designed with a design life, usually of less than 100 years. Uranium has a half-life of millions, if not billions of years in some cases. So, given the following facts, I would like to ask some questions of you, some favors of you. The eastern slopes of the Blue Ridge Mountains receive 42 inches of annual rainfall, and it also fell victim to 2 30-inch rainfalls in a 12-hour period over a 26-year period. One in Nelson County in 1969 and one in Madison County in 1995. Uranium waste tailings contain 85% of the natural uranium found in the mine bedrock. They can only leachate 15%. Uranium is toxic, it is radioactive, it is a heavy metal with a half-life of millions to billions of years. Uranium produces radon gas, which rapidly morphs 3.8-day half-life into polonium-210, the deadliest substance known to man. Extremely heavy, it deposits itself on fauna and flora. What happens to farming? Would you please let us know? Uranium tailings house many more heavy metals and toxic substances. Milling 1 pound of yellow cake leaves behind 1,000 to 4,000 pounds of finely ground waste tailings. Please explain how this waste can be stored forever without contaminating the air, land, and hundreds of miles around the mine site, and the cost for doing so forever, with particular attention to leachate from the tailings and the mine site. Please provide the cost to attempt to remediate the land and waterways once contaminated by a tailings breach. Additionally, I would ask that you study the geology and hydrology of the area and make recommendations that address the issues, particularly regarding the Chatham Fault, and the cost analysis of the steps that need to be taken immediately and forever. Again, I told you this in Danville, but I'd like to say it again. This whole process, including the study, is an exercise in futility. No sane or rational human being would ever consider putting a uranium mine in an environment like we enjoy in Virginia. Nothing would blight an area like a uranium mine. The claims about job creation are blatantly false, as a uranium mine would destroy many existing jobs. Hargrave Military Academy and Chatham Hall being just two. That would take more jobs away than the mine would bring, and would effectively kill economic development. As a professional engineer, I can confidently say that it is humanly impossible.
Excuse me, Mr. Donovan, could you just wrap up?
Yes, sir. I just got a little bit left. Thank you very much. It is humanly impossible to contain the radon gas, leachate, and finely ground tailings to the mining site. I have been studying uranium mining since the early 80s, and I have steadfastly maintained the above statement. It is refreshing to have the Virginia Beach study verify my stand. And it's always nice to say, I told you so. Thank you very much.